Throughout the First World War, the soldiers inside of the trenches had a lot to contend with. Their living environment was horrific, and it was brutal inside the trenches, as artillery shells fell all around, and the possibility of death was around every single corner. They were often flooded, and the water caused a significant amount of trouble and problems, as rats and other vermin often lived nearby, and sometimes the sewage trenches flooded into the living quarters. But there were some medical conditions that emerged from this, including shell shock, a form of PTSD, which thousands of soldiers suffered from, and many were shown little mercy or sympathy for this. But there was also a horrific condition which was linked to the water inside of the trenches and wearing footwear which was not suitable. Trench foot was a brutal condition that often led to soldiers losing their feet due to infection. Welcome to the Fortress. Join us today as we look at the condition of trench foot, and as always, to support our channel, click subscribe down below. Trench foot, as it is most commonly known, is damage to the foot due to excessive moisture or submersion in water for a significant time. There were many symptoms of it, including itching and numbness in the foot, but the limb may also go red or blue in its colour, and it could also swell and then rot and decay. This was very serious, as it could ultimately lead to blood poisoning and severe infection, but it usually occurs when the feet are exposed to dirty conditions or cold and wet conditions for too long. What is surprising is the quick rate that trench foot can set in, as within 10 hours of suffering, the infection can occur. But other problems can be caused from wearing not the proper footwear or boots that are too tight, and the blood vessels in the foot could become constricted, and then blood could not flow easily to the foot. It was during the First World War that trench foot became known, and it was during this conflict that it got its name, due to the fact that the trenches were being fought in, and these were very waterlogged and muddy, meaning the feet of the soldiers, if their boots were not sufficient, could become cold and infected. But it was around 100 years before the outbreak of the First World War that the condition was first reported. A French army surgeon named Dominique Larrey was serving in Napoleon's army during the retreat from Russia. He found that the soldiers were suffering with infections in their feet brought about during the cold weather of winter. But during the First World War, it became a severe problem, especially during winter. Much of the trench environment was incredibly damp and muddy, and it was believed that around 75,000 soldiers were affected by the condition, and that 2,000 Americans also suffered from it. In the worst cases, some soldiers had their feet amputated off, and this was avoided by the doctors if they could. There was a significant amount of research conducted into the condition, and improvements were made to the trench structure and environment, but there was also better education with regards to instructing the soldiers to change their socks regularly and dry them out, for example. And there was also modification made for the boots, and this made them less likely to be affected by water. But also different greases such as whale oil was provided to prevent further problems. Also, there were a number of regular inspections of feet to make sure that the problem could be caught quickly, to make sure that soldiers were not taken off the front lines by trench foot. Because of this, soldiers were paired up, and their partner was then responsible for the other person's feet, and the soldiers kept a close eye out for each other. But this was not just a problem as mentioned during the First World War, it was actually prominent during the Vietnam War, and there were some cases which affected the US Army, but also during the Falklands War, there were a few cases which were outlined. One thing to mention about trench foot is the fact that this is not an issue which has been left behind in history, and still today affects many people, including the homeless, who are on the streets in the cold of winter. But trench foot was a harrowing condition of the First World War, which affected a huge number of soldiers, and the most serious sufferers lost their feet because of it. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.